is Hans-Jørgen Jonsrud. I am a Nordic Strategic Vendor Manager for AWS at the Nordic level, and we are having another webinar series. We are having this as a Nordic webinar, so we have participants and partners from Norway, Sweden, Denmark, and Finland, and that is great. I hope you all can see my screen, and we're having two webinar series, which you have possible seen now. We're having tech webinars, and we also have another new webinar series on how to start your AWS journey and how TD SYNNEX can support you building the business. And all of those are placed, the technical webinars on the left side, and how to start the business is on the right side, which we're having also starting up in February. For today's webinar, the 25th, information and security and continuity. We are having Anders from AWS presenting in general typical threats and also toward the well-architected review and the methods around it. And then we will have Gustav from TD SYNNEX presenting how the TD SYNNEX can deliver their work together with you as a partner. So with that, I would like to give the word to Anders, which can kick off the webinar.
I will start to introduce myself. My name is Anders Nilsson. I'm a Senior Solutions Architect at AWS. And today I'm going to talk a little bit about common security related challenges that we see at our customers. I'm going to talk about how that then relates to our well-architected framework and the reviews that you can do together with partners like TD SYNNEX. And I'm also going to give you knowledge about how it's done and my experience as an architect doing these kind of reviews with many big customers and sort of see what has the outcome been, why do they do that, and what is the benefit of doing these type of exercises. And also this is to relate to how can this improve the security, because this is very much a common question. Are we well architected? Are we sort of in risk of threats? That's usually what kicks off an interest in working with best practices and seeing how you can improve your security posture and your architectural sort of solution. And at AWS, security is our top priority. This is our CTO, and he has been preaching since day one that security is our job zero, the first thing that we should do. And then since this is a technical webinar, most of you are well aware that you share the responsibility of security with AWS. That means that we are, as AWS, responsible of the security of the cloud. We secure our data centers and we secure everything that has to do with our infrastructure. Then you as a customer are responsible of the security in the cloud. And for that, we provide you with a lot of tools to keep you safe and protected. And that comes down to applying those tools within an architecture so that you get a good security posture and you can easily detect and mitigate threats. But all that said and done, still things happen. And today I want to sort of start looking at what kind of things do we see happening at our customers and how can we then protect and help the customers how to mitigate that. And let's see what common attack attempts that we have detected. And this is data coming from our customer incident response team, our CIRT. So that means that they are the ones, when a big customer has some security incident, what has been the root cause of that and what has been detected. And we have our own threat intelligence protection service that you can use to detect common threats and work to mitigate with them. And that's called Amazon Guard Duty. And threats are categorized in different sort of things that we have seen that has been detected. And the most sort of common reason for a threat to occur is unauthorized access to the systems. It can also be policy breach, and with the policy breach, that means that you have said that this data stored in an S3 bucket should not be shared publicly. It becomes shared publicly, and you have a breach of a policy. Stealth relates more to turning off logs, keeping things undetected, so a threat operator can work within an environment undetected for a long time. And what does this lead to when you look at that? The things that we see from a CERT perspective is that security events, they are usually targeted towards some form of data destruction. And we talk about data destruction, it's unauthorized users gain access, they delete some data, modify some data. A very common scenario is that there's a ransom demand related to this, and the bad daters don't return the data that has been breached. And this is the most common scenario that has been seen. And this is something that, of course, we want to help our customers to protect them against. And we're now going to look at see how can this be done. And the root cause that was discovered when we're looking at incidents that has occurred is that it's some sort of disclosure of security credentials that has occurred. That's actually the most common reason that uh, data get compromised or you get unauthorized access into systems in the cloud. And this is not something that's unique for the cloud. It's something that I would say can occur in on-premise environments as well. But in the cloud, I would say you have the tools and mechanisms to avoid that. And to look at this, how can that be done? How to automatically do a remediation of exposed credentials? That can be done by, okay, we have a public exposed key. We have someone has usually put an access key into some code repository like GitHub. We have continuously monitoring of common code repositories to identify if someone has by mistake checked in code that contains a key, for instance. If that is detected, that will send a signal to the account's AWS health dashboard, and that will trigger an event in our event bridge system. That means that you can have automatic remediation by applying rules to when this event occurs, then you can have functions that removes that exposed IAM key. And why I'm showing this is like, it can also show that in the cloud trail and it can send notifications to parties that needs to be aware that has been a security incident. This is an example of an architecture that is in place or should be in place at customers in order to protect them from exposing keys and being a victim of this sort of most common scenario where someone is doing something by mistake that can cause very severe consequences. And that leads into the question why architecture is so important and applying best practices. And that's one of the parts of the framework that we have in place called well architectured that help customers to target their different sort of needs and pillars in order to achieve a good and productive environment in the cloud. Because what people want to do when they move to the cloud is to take advantage of the cloud's benefits, and that's to innovate, be resilient, to be able to do rapid deployments, and optimize this for cost and sustainability. All those things led to the development of the AWS well-architectured framework. And that is a practice where we have best practices and principles that we have covered from having these sort of interactions with customers over a long time. And we have formulated them into questions and areas that we define as pillars of different sorts that is important to have a deep understanding of, like security, for instance. We also have AWS solutions that is pre-packaged best practices and solutions that can be applied, usually as an outcome after doing a well-architectured review. So when you look at the workloads that your team is building, can you answer a question like, are you well architectured? And that is usually where this journey takes its place. You have built something and you start to wonder, is this according to best practices? Is this something that could be done better? Are we protected from a security perspective? Is this resilient? And so on. And that's where the well-architectured framework comes in. And here are the pillars that I talked about, that we have grouped sort of different areas where we want to sort of help our customers to dive deep and get those best practices. It's like operational excellence. How is your solution automated? Can that detection I showed before be automated, done in a way that is efficient? That links into the security. Reliability comes down to, if something goes down, are you able to switch in order to another region, into another availability zone, and so on. You have the performance efficiency. Are you doing the most with the hardware you provision? It comes down to auto scaling and factors like that. You also have, in the end, you need to see at the cost. Is this done in the most cost efficient way? Are you using the right services to take advantage of the cloud, that you can scale up, scale down, turn on, turn off, and find the best optimal solution for you? And in the end, it also comes down to, we need to live on this planet for a long time, and we need to make sure that our solutions and the thing that we built are secure for the future and sustainable. And what is the framework? That's the pillars, it's design principles, and it's questions. Question is where it takes its start to sort of dive deep together with your customer into the sort of general design principles, and then pillar specifics like security. What are you doing into this area when it comes to making sure that you don't have unauthorized access, for instance? That leads down to, for instance, having an automated response to security events, as I showed you before. If we look at the framework, the sort of advantage of applying a framework is like, you stop guessing your capacity needs. You can automate and make architectural experimentation much easier. You can allow for evolutionary architectures, and you drive your architecture using data, and this becomes a process that is repeatable. You get the baseline that you continue to build upon, and you can sort of show and see and track your improvements. To add to this, we have special well-architected lenses that we also provide, that helps you if you have a special area that you want to focus on. For instance, you are heavily building solutions or using solutions towards IoT. Then we have special questions that are targeted and related to IoT solutions or analytics or serverless. That is what we define as a lens. But you can also build custom lenses with questions that is relevant for your operations and what you want to sort of achieve, or what your customers want to achieve. And why should you use this? It helps you as a customer to build and deploy faster. It lower and mitigates risks. That's one of the key factors from what I have seen when I've done that. And also making informed decisions. It's a very good way, when you have done a well-architectured review, to have this as a foundation to discuss what has been done, what can be done and improved, and to take that from the sort of persons that are building, operating the service that you have done, until the sort of C-level that needs to get an understanding of common sort of improvement opportunities. And it's a great opportunity to learn from the best practices that we have collected from customers all over the world and all over different industries. And it's a great opportunity for the teams and the company to learn when you do this. It gives you the opportunity to measure and get data on where you stand and how to improve from that position. And that is really sort of good from the perspective that you should do this as early as possible. We have seen that if you do an architecture review, maybe before you build something, this is our idea, you can identify things that could be improved already from start. It could also prevent you from making bad decisions. You might see and discover things that could be improved you hadn't considered, that you can get from best practices. You can also see that when we have done this, and we have done it with thousands of customers, most workloads can be improved. And that is something that is really important to stress, because where things go wrong, I usually see, is that this is not an audit, it's an opportunity to work together to improve. It's not some architecture astronaut that we sort of see and recite who can name the most architectural patterns. It's pragmatic, proven advice that actually helps customers move along. And it's not a one-time check. It's a practice that when a well architecture review has been done, it's something that should be repeated continuously to get the improvements. It's very important when you do this to get the right people and teams in the room, and combine that with knowledge about infrastructure and services that's going to be reviewed, and decide on this workload, and also bring out the plans and procedures collected to that workload. So we have all that in before of doing a review. That also helps. Decide on you should use some custom lenses, create your own. That's a good pre-discussion. It's sometimes best practices are not applicable to the sort of use cases that you have in your business or the customer have in their business, then mark them as not applicable. There's also a programmatic access to the well architecture framework, so you can do this from an automation point of view. And if you look at what is the outcome of a well architecture review, a well architecture review is a report. That's the sort of final outcome of that. And that gives you an improvement plan where we have classified based on the pillars, based on the questions that you have answered, what is defined as a high risk, what is defined as a medium risk. And what you can see here in the report is the sort of questions, and that is then maybe classified as a high risk. Then you can go into the sort of improvement plan that you get out of this. So if question 2, how do you manage identities for people and machines, that was a high risk. That comes out from the moderation and discussion around the sort of workload that you have looked at together with the customer. And then it comes down to also the improvement plan, exactly tips and tricks and what you should do, where you can find the additional information, how you can mitigate the things that have been classified as a risk, what should you do, what should you prioritize. And from my sort of experience of doing this, an really, really good thing to do when you do a well architectured review is to make sure that the people in the room that are participating around the workload, they know that it's an open discussion. You need to make sure that this is not to sort of put someone on the spot. Why have this not been done? It's not to find the scapegoat. It's to improve and to learn how to improve. And from that perspective, it's very important for the person that is doing this well architecture review to be able to moderate the discussion, to make sure that sometimes people don't speak up, to probe more into that area. And what I would say is a good complement when doing a well architecture review is to, besides the report that you get out of the system, to have the persons leading this to actually write their own reflections, to give their sort of feedback. That is something that gives a very valuable output out of performing a well architecture review. And the workflow of a well architecture review, it's asking the questions. And that is to ensure that you follow the structure. And it's important to give the context. When you're looking at the workload, you need to what you know about the sort of workload. If you don't know enough, ask the people in the room. That's why it's important to have the knowledge in the room collected in order to answer the questions. And if the knowledge is not there at the moment, maybe it can be marked as this is not complete, but information is being collected. And that's the beauty of the tool, that this is an ongoing iterative process that you can work with. And I would say getting the report is one thing, but the most important job starts when you get the outcome to discuss and follow up. And also when you do this, is this applicable to our workload? And if not, why is it not applicable? And many times people have different opinions, and it's fine. But then it comes down to you need to discuss them, and in order to make those informed decisions about, is this the right architecture for us, to list the sort of considerations that you did. No, this is not the risk because of, this is not the concern because we know it's a little bit more expensive, but we're willing to do that in order to get the improved resilience to do this type of solution. So you get a nice context after and can follow that, because that is a milestone to the next time you do the review. What have you changed? What have you improved in this type of review? And shared understandings. And that is something that is very, very good. We see in many organizations, this becomes something that is done among many teams, and it becomes a process in order to make sure that when we're going to start a new development, in order to avoid doing a lot of stuff that then we need to backtrack, this is a practice. We start with this. And as I said, the earlier you do this, the better the well architecture framework works. But it's not something that you cannot start with an existing workload. It works very well from there, but then the starting point will be from that current state. And lessons from the wild, I thought I would say something from what I have done and what I've seen works, is to have discussions before, to sort of get the understanding what is the well architecture framework, to discuss the questions with the clients, to define and explain this before this process starts, and also scope the problem. That means defining the workload, defining what is the things that you're looking for. Many times you start out too broad and try to solve every sort of security aspect. You need to maybe say that, okay, in this context where we are, for this solution, we initially focus on the reliability and the security pillar. It's not like a must to do all the pillars at one go. It's better to start and see that as an iterative point. We start with these three pillars, we do that, we dive deeper, and then continue to build upon that. That is usually what gives the best result. And use your partner, use the one that is moderating and leading this to get the third party reflection. They are not there, like when I'm doing this with clients, I'm not there to judge, I'm there to assist and help to get that third party reflection. So do that. It's important to document and moderate the discussions, bring out the things that people might be reluctant to say, probe deeper, do that, then you will have a better outcome of that. And do follow-ups and make sure that you do this as a process and see that as a roadmap to iterate. This is the stage where you're at, and then continue to build upon that. And from a partner perspective, I would say there is always room for improvements. And when you have done a well architecture review, you have a lot of opportunities to see where should we prioritize, where should we focus our work when we are going forward. So if we look at a typical question to see how this sort of ties back to the security and getting you into a better security posture. Let's say incident response. How do you respond to an incident? That's where this discussion starts. That will take place, and here we see the sort of solution in also a part of the solution. But it comes from, we have a concern around Bitcoin mining. Okay, that means we need threat intelligence. How can we get threat intelligence? We can do that through guard duty. What kind of data sources do we need? Then the outcome of that risk that we had identified, Bitcoin mining, that might be high risk. How do we then act upon that? And those are the things that will be the outcome of recommendations from a well architecture review. And then you can dive deeper into the more specifics and architect the solutions, look at the specific services needed to use and mitigate for such an incident and problem. And that could be like alert and respond and how to do that. It also comes down to managing risks and prioritization when it comes to the identifications you have done and the outcome of well architecture, and doing some sort of risk catalog, risk matrix to decide what is things that we start to remediate right now, what are things that we put into next milestone. That is also very critical to do in order to make it a tool that helps you focus on the things that have the highest impact to do for your organization. And what is available? We have a lot of content. We have the framework, we have the pillars, we have that described in form of white papers. We have the tools, we have the well architectured tools, we have the review, and we have resources from partners and in the marketplace that we can do that. And this review can be done through partners, through AWS, or it can also be done at the later stage as a self-service. And we also have the data. That's the outcome where you can get your sort of answers, the notes, the milestones, pillar priority, what we have learned out of using this. And where can I find this? All the content of the well architecture is at our well architected content website, where you can see how the pillars branch out into questions and then also into the sort of recommendations that we have seen within this area. So this is a very, very good starting point. And here you can see the same sort of question that we talked about. How can we then use fault isolation for protecting a workload? And we also have well architectured labs that you can go in and run according to you want to improve security by using one of our services. Then there are labs that you can leverage and use in order to learn how to do this in a better and faster way, together on your own or together with some partner. We also have AWS Solutions Library. The Solutions Library are pre-packaged solutions that can be deployed, that are built according to be aligned with the well-architectured framework. So it's a good starting point if we are going to build a solution to sort of mitigate the exposure of credentials. Then I can guarantee that you can find that type of solution in our solutions library that can easily be deployed with guidance and practices on how to do that and why we have decided that this is a good architecture or recommend this. So this is something that can save you as an organization and a partner a lot of time, and you will have something that is vetted to be deployed. The last thing I want to show you, and if you want to link to this, you can scan the QR code here, is that this can be automated. And if you scan this QR code, you will come to a blog post where you can see the how this dashboard is built, and that is using QuickSight and the APIs that is linked to the well architecture. So if you're doing this in a bigger organizations, you have many workloads, you want to keep the track of where are we, what have we to improve, where are our risks, what has not been mitigated, are we on a good trend, are we on a bad trend. This is a way to get you started with that. And if you have sort of questions on how this can be done, we are of course here to help you with all those kind of things going forward. And with that, I would like to hand over to my colleague, partner here at TD SYNNEX, and they can describe a little bit better from their perspective how exactly they help you with implementing this and achieving good security practices at their partners and applying the well architecture framework. Thank you.
Thank you, Anders. Gustav?
Thank you, Anders. So hello, everyone. My name is Gustav Banerjee. I hope all of you can see me. Okay, so let me first try to introduce myself while I set my screen sharing up. So I am a member of the Cloud Center of Excellence at TD SYNNEX. So I am working as an AWS Cloud Solutions Architect along with my other colleagues who are also working in the same capacity. Just a second, let me quickly set it up. Can anyone please confirm?
Yes, we can see your screen.
Okay, that's great. So yeah, so let me restart again. So hi, so my name is Gustav Banerjee and I am a part of the Cloud Center of Excellence here at TD SYNNEX. So me along with my other cloud solution architect colleagues, we work with different partners and customers to help with them with their AWS solution architecture related problems and challenges. And not just that, we have also been trained and we have also have had sufficient experience in delivering well-architected framework reviews for our partners. So today, what I'm trying to explain you is what is exactly this, what is exactly offered as a part of this service, and what is the additional value that we offer on top of what AWS already offers in terms of using the AWS WAF tool. So as Anders rightly explained, and he has already given you a sufficient introduction and knowledge about how the well-architected framework review tool works. So our service offered from COE has been broken down into 3 phases. So as you can see here in the slide, so we offer 3 paths, starting with the review, the assessment, and the remediate. So in the review part of the service, one of our cloud solution architects will be assigned to you. And the first part is about helping you, supporting you to explain, understand, and answer the questionnaire which is offered through the well-architected framework tool. So as you already understand by now that the tool is basically built on top of the AWS best practices, and the questions are classified into 6 different pillars like the security, the cost efficiency, and cost optimization and sustainability and so on. So what we do is that before the start of the process, we engage with you, we try to and the questions which are a part of the questionnaire, and not just understand the question, but also help you answer those questions. So I will later on also give you a quick glimpse at what the questions and the answers look like in the actual WAF tool offered by AWS. But then we, during the entire course of the day, we help you. We have like a 7 or an 8 hours workshop trying to help you understand the different topics that are addressed in each of these pillars and the questions, and help you understand and help you answer those questions. At the end of the review phase, As Anders has already explained, that the AWS tool generates a report. The report which gives you, it identifies the different issues that are there in your application design, and also categorizes and classifies those issues into high risk issues and medium risk issues. And not just that, the AWS report also gives you a comprehensive list of solutions that you can undertake and you can use to remediate and mitigate those issues. So at the end of the review phase that we engage with you, what we all do is that we explain and we understand and answer the questions, and then at the end of the day, we generate the report. And for your information, we will not be using the tool in any of our accounts. So just so that to make sure that all information and all data related to your applications and workloads stay with you. So we will be working on the WAF tool in the partner's own AWS account. So we will be working remotely, helping you answer those questions in your own AWS account. The next step of this service is the assessment. So now that you have the AWS generated report, which gives you a list of all the different high risk and medium risk issues, we now start adding more value on top of that report. So in the assessment phase of the service, we are given, so the AWS architects at the COE are given access to your AWS account, where we go in, we log into your account and we analyze your application architecture, your application resources even more closely, and build up a more like an expert understanding of what your application actually looks like and what is the current state of your workloads. After that is done, we again engage with you, because as you understand that there are 6 different pillars and there could be many different issues that are highlighted by the AWS report. But then again, there could be many issues, there could be many topics which are more important or less important to you, depending on your business drivers and your goals, and what you intend to achieve out of this entire review function and exercise. So in this process, we discuss with you, we help you understand, we understand your requirements, that which is, let's say you want, of course, security is one of the most important pillars for you, but then again, you also want to optimize the cost of running your application, and you also want to automate your application so that it is more time efficient. So in that case, we help understand what are the pillars and what are the issues that are more important and relevant to your cause and to your goals. And based on that understanding, we create a custom remediation plan. So what is a custom remediation plan? So this plan anyway is based on top of the AWS generated report, but on top of that, we provide you a custom remediation plan wherein we break down or we reprioritize the risk or the issues highlighted in the report. And we also give you a remediation plan where we closely recommend you what are the specific actions that you should take to mitigate those issues and in what order. We typically break it down to different waves so that, and we also give you an effort and cost estimation of what would be the cost to remediate those set of issues and those set of risks. I will again shortly show you the remediation plan that we had created, like a custom remediation plan that we had created for one of our earlier partners. And then once we have handed you over the remediation plan, we can again like sit down with you trying to understand that how much of that are you interested in taking care of in this iteration of the review process. For example, let's say I recommend you 3 different waves where we address and mitigate 20 different issues, but then let's say you want to only take care of the first 15 issues, and let's say you want to keep the last 5 issues for a later period of time, because let's be honest, let's say it doesn't fit in your budget, or maybe that is not so important to you. So these are the kind of considerations and requirements we take into our understanding, and create a completely customized remediation plan just for you. And we understand and we discuss the scope of that remediation plan. Once we have an agreement with the remediation plan, it is then when we move into the actual remediation. So based on your selection and choice of how much of the issues do you want to remediate. We start working. So I mean, the members of the COE also help you actually remediate and implement the solutions. And then that is done on a time and material based project. And depending on the number and the volume of issues and the nature of the solution that you want to implement, we engage ourselves into a time and material project. And where, I mean, like at the end of it, we also generate a document where we list down all the different solutions that have been implemented. During this process, in the WAF tool, we also have a provision of creating milestones. So what are milestones? Let's assume that you do a first review, and then after a review, we highlighted, I mean, the tool highlighted 20 different issues. Then at the end of the remediate process with the COE, with the Tech Data Synex COE, you remediated 15 of those 20 issues. And then that is where in the tool you can create a milestone where we help you insert all the details of the 15 issues that have been remediated from that AWS generated report. But how does that help us? The thing is that at the end of that milestone, AWS can analyze how much of those issues have been remediated and what are the actions that have been undertaken. And based on that, AWS also pays back. It also pays back in credit to you. I mean, that is a different calculation. So depending on the percentage of issues that you have remediated, AWS pays you back in terms of credits to support your support the cost of the overall project. But that again depends on the amount of issues that you have chosen to remediate. So this is overall. So each one of these parts of the service are independent. So you can choose to engage us in delivering any part of the service. So you can just go with a review. You can go with a review plus assess, and then you can also go with a review plus assess or remediate. So these are like all independent parts of the service, and you may choose to use as much of it as you want. Now that you have understood the service that we offer from COE, I'll also quickly take you to, 1 second, let me show you the remediation plan. So first of all, let me show you the AWS WAF tool. So this is the actual AWS WAF tool. And as you can see here, so these are the different pillars, the 6 different pillars that are a part of the review process. And if I go into any one of these pillars, there are a list of set questions, and these are the kind of okay, so this is the answers. Okay, so there are different answers and this choice of answers to which you can provide to each of these questions. So this is where we sit with you in the initial review process and help you understand and answer all these questions for all the 6 pillars. And then at the end of which AWS generates this report. So this is the report generated from the WAF tool, and it lists and identifies all the different kind of issues that AWS thinks are relevant to you based on the answers you provide to their questions. So in this case, these are the list of high risk issues and the medium risk issues, and the link to all the answers and the possible solutions to each of these issues highlighted. And based on that, in the assessment process, this is the remediation plan that we create for you. So as you can see here, so we have a detailed list of all the different issues that we think are important and relevant for you, broken down into different waves and prioritized based on your business drivers and your goals. And not just that, we also classify the solutions into what are the necessary solutions and what are the solutions which are possibly good to have for you, but not urgent or not like very important. Then depending on your choice, depending on your selection, we can choose to implement like a part of these solutions or the entire solution. So that is something which we again discuss at the end of the review, at the end of the assess phase, and before we move on to the actual execution of the remediation plan. So I think that's all from my side. I'm open to questions for you. If you have any questions, if you want to understand the service better, I'm all open for questions right now. You can even reach out to our email to the COE@TDCnext, and then you can reach out to any one of us, and we'll be more than happy to answer your questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Gustav. That was great, and thank you, Anders. I think you have given lots of good information toward the well-architected review and how actually well-architected review can open. How well-architected review can open and make you see all the opportunities and the options you are having and the risk you should consider together with your partner. And toward all the details, we are always having on the end of our landing page the recordings from webinars we have been having, which are also placed for the first 3 webinars we have had, so you can share that with your colleagues. And I know that some of you had problems connecting today, and I know a few haven't been able to connect because Microsoft Teams have been having problems and issues with the platform. So it is like when Anders tried to show his screen at the beginning, he had problems. That was just a part of it. But the recording will be placed on here, and we hope that you also will sign up toward the next ones. Like we are having a webinar now the 22nd of February toward AWS Storage Gateway, and please sign up toward it. I think it will be very interesting, and a few more coming up. Toward the well-architected review, you should be familiar with you as a partner of AWS, and toward being a selector advanced, you have the possibility of applying for funding toward the cost of doing a well-architected review. And TD SYNNEX, as presented by Gustav, is able to support you in doing exactly that, and you might be able to cover a portion of all the cost of doing exactly that together with TD SYNNEX. So to apply for that in the ACE portal of AWS is the way to start the process to see if you can get some support toward the cost of doing it. So with that, I will say thank you for you all participating today. I haven't seen any questions in the chat area. So, but if you have any questions, please reach out to the local BDM, which are also seeing at the end, toward Sweden, Eric, toward Norway, Ahmed, toward Denmark, Mikkel, and toward Finland, Mina, which are one of the BDMs in the countries which are visible in this landing page. So just reach out to us to get the process started. So with that, thank you all. I will stop the recording and have a nice day.